Good morning, good morning, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing today? Happy Friday, Mr. Pena. Tapping in here. I'm excited for today. We got a couple of things going. We are moving and grooving. Mr. Dorner, Connor, Andy, Kevin, Samir, Dante, Frank, Carlos, Felicia, Laura, Angie, Nick. Whoa, huge shout out to Mr. Trident Jake today for closing on his first deal, $20,000 assignment. Let's go. Fantastic. Mr. Fazio, good morning. How are you doing today?
Oh man, it's the end of the week, man. I'm really just making it through on coffee. That's really the only way that I'm alive today.
There
I
you go.
slept, I crashed out last night around 9:30, 10 o'clock. I woke up this morning at 4 a.m. Got right back to work. Had my first meeting today at 7:30, and we've been going since. And last meeting today at 9 o'clock tonight. So
Another day.
we're just, we're I got an IV of caffeine just right now, just pumping straight through.
We got Mr. Pena saying he's on mushrooms. What type of mushrooms, Dante? What
Hey
are you
man,
sipping on?
I used to microdose psilocybin when I was bodybuilding. Actually, it's actually surprisingly very it's nice. It's a nice feeling. It takes away anxiety, keeps you can keep you focused.
Interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
They do that out there in Silicon Valley. Actually, a lot of the big corporations do microdose psilocybin throughout the day.
It's
Here we
it's
go.
the or it's the organic stuff. It's the turkey tail, the
Oh,
lion's
it's like
mane,
the
the
lion's
chaga.
mane. Yeah.
But yeah, we've been to microdose before. I'm excited for 3 p.m. today. I want to see Mr. Matt Riley doing some creative.
As do I. I'm excited as well. We'll see, if he pops in. I will keep you all posted. We're going to be going over the basics, the fundamentals, and everything everybody needs to learn to actually understand when they're talking to a seller that's in a situation that a creative offer might make sense. So I think it's going to benefit a lot of people, and hopefully we can share, with everybody that attends, the fundamentals to creative finance, so that the next time you get on the phone and you come across somebody that might need a creative solution to their problem, you know how to identify when you're speaking to somebody. But man, we got 25 people joining us already, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Matt Riley, sneaking through the back door today. I'm excited. We've got an amazing show for you all. I've prepared some notes and kind of structuring what I think we could kind of do, and I'm very excited to see what Matt comes up with as well. He's been building up a lot of hype around this show, and I'm very, very, very excited to see what he comes up with today. Good morning.
Yo, did I just so happen to join when you were doing that?
You just so happened to join.
Love doing that. I love that. God
Sneaking
bless
through the
Dan
back
Fazio
door.
as well.
Man,
God bless Dan
Matt Riley's
Fazio.
giving me a break today. You know what, man? I might just fuck around and actually go get lunch
Dude,
outside today. I might take a stroll down the street.
it's gonna be Dan
I
when
might.
Dan sees the sunlight for the first time in a week. He's gonna be out there
That's
just
it. The
like
first time I've seen sunlight all week, man. This
it's
has been
gonna
the
be
first time. By the time I come out of my office every day, it's dark outside. It's
it's gonna
dark
be
outside
Dan
today.
bumping into bushes and buildings outside because he hasn't been out there in a week.
Oh man,
Thinking of movies where people go to prison for like 30 years and they come out and the whole world is different when they come out.
that's
That's gonna
that's
be you.
really that's really how it feels. I opened my blinds up today inside my office because I was like, man, you know what? I really need to. I probably am lacking on the vitamin D recently. So
You're out there. There's self-driving cars out here. How long have I been gone?
Are they in
What's
Miami now?
what's happened? Huh?
um, we might have a few things down here. We have even
Okay.
Tesla's self drive. I think for
Teslas.
pretty well.
I think Arizona is the only state that has like those fully like what John was taking when he went
Oh
on the
yeah,
apprentice. Like I think I just
that
watched
was
the video
dope.
yesterday. Some lady was sitting in the front seat of a car, in a Jaguar, and it was the same thing, self-driving, and it was making an unprotected left. She called it, so it was coming like out of an alley on like a four-lane street. In the car, it was just so like no thanks, I'm good.
You got to
I'm
be a
good.
little crazy to hop in one of those.
Yeah,
Luckily,
dude, you got it.
I got that. I got that sickness.
You gotta be right with the Lord to get in one of
Amen.
those. You gotta know good karma's on your side.
So it's like it's like the first time it's like you've just had when you just have a kid and you've been like taking care of the kid and everything like that. It's like the first time somebody takes that kid and like watches it for you. It's like, hey, you guys go have fun. You guys go have fun tonight. That's how I feel. That's how I feel today. When I saw that message, I was like, man, it was like that surprise. I was like, oh man, I can I can go outside today between the hours of 3 p.m. to 6.
I mean, seriously though, like what take like even when what were you doing prior? Weekends off?
Sunday usually I didn't really do much except
Sunday
just kind of
off, like
reset.
just straight cold calling every day. Like it's just yeah, man. I think
Yeah.
like I said, you need it just for your own sanity to be able to get on calls and actually like want to talk to people in a certain like you're just gonna ruin your own success if you don't at least take a break every once in a while and get some of your
Well,
sanity.
we're only doing it 3 hours. I mean, we're only doing the show 3 hours a day, so it's nothing too crazy. You know what I mean? Nothing too crazy.
And I don't cold call 3 hours a day for the last fucking week.
uh,
That's a
last
lot.
yeah, it's we're
That's a
good.
lot.
It is.
So I'm happy to pick up some
I'll be
slack
joining
for you.
in. I'll be joining in from my phone. You know, what I mean, I'll be out on a nice little stroll. Taking a little walk in the neighborhood today.
Feel feel free to join in and hop in the chat the same way that I hop in your chat. And always I always know that the way that I interact with people only opens up the doorway for people to do that to me. So I already imagine what
So
it's gonna be.
I'm ready.
I'm ready for it. But yeah, man, I guess I'm excited. It'll be fun. We'll be talking. The goal is we do have some stuff. John and I talked about like what we kind of want to discuss in the first because I'd like to. We were talking about it. I'd like to have some sort of not regiment, but like we could go off tangents and just talk about all sorts of stuff. But then I feel like there's not really any learning taking place in those scenarios because now we're just touching on this topic and this topic and this. So in order to get to this topic, we need to understand these things first. And so, um, and then again, just like this, we'll do it. You got questions in the chat. You want to jump up on stage. We want to break down deals, different things. Um, I'm working with a couple members right now. I'm working with JM. I'm working with Sam, and so on the creative side, there's just no blanket formula per se that you can use. Like on cash wholesale, you can do the ARV times zero point 0.7, you can do the ARV 0.93 minus repairs. Like you can kind of stick to pretty specific formulas, but on the creative side, there's a lot of different things that you got to take into consideration markets as well. So you gotta, same formula works here, but then you go to Memphis, Tennessee, or Birmingham, or some of these other markets. That formula is really not going to make sense there. So there's a lot that goes into it, and it's kind of tough sometimes to quote unquote teach people because again, there's no blanket formula that we can really lean on. There's some basics to understand. And then just through your experience and learning, you'll figure out how to underwrite deals and do stuff like that. So I'm excited for it.
This is awesome. I know it's going to help a lot of people. And my intention is to put Matt on the map, right? So we got to get Mr. Matt Riley out there. The world needs to know who is the number one creative genius in the real estate industry. It is not who is popular, but it will be here soon. So we'll run it down. I'm excited. I got some notes. I think we can talk about what is seller finance, what is sub two, clear up a lot of the misinformation that's been spread, especially about stuff like due on sale insurance, that kind of stuff. I know that you're very
Oh gosh.
passionate
God.
about
Just no,
informing.
like just you saying that in that, like it's still aggravating, like it still riles me up.
And I think a lot of
It
people
gets
need to know because, when I was pitching in the beginning, before I actually got any sort of deal, um, I was thinking that there actually was due on sale clause insurance just based off of misinformation that I heard.
100%. I always say, like, I always give grace to people in, even when I'm talking to agents about creative, I might be reaching out one of their listings and, they don't know. And I give them grace. I'm like, yeah, of course you don't know what this is. Like, there was 6 million transactions that took place in 2022. 95% of those, 90% of those was just a traditional transaction: buyer, seller, first time home buyer, bring a loan, bring a cash, whatever it is to that. And so you could literally be in this space for 20 years. I've talked to plenty of people, whether it's agents, sellers, investors, whatever. Imagine how many fix and flip people are in this space in real estate that have been doing fix and flips for 20 years, and they are just getting on the creative train and learning about these things. So I give grace there because you haven't had to be introduced to it. You've been only having to do one part of real estate, so you don't know what this part is. And so maybe you heard something one time, and because you're not really familiar with it, you think it's true. And so that's where the quote unquote education comes in. Or I don't even like, not even education, but just correct information, because we don't have set formulas for underwriting sometimes, but we do have set correct information on what it is and what it isn't, what you do, what you don't do, things like that. So those are set things that we can discuss and go over. Due on sale clause insurance is a big thing for sure. I talked to a guy yesterday. He's a buyer on my Colorado Springs deal, and had a good conversation with him yesterday. And he's purchased property subject to, and after talking on the phone yesterday, last night for like 35 minutes, he started asking me questions and was like, "Oh, I'd love to stay, when I purchase another one." So even people that are purchasing them personally may not even be doing it correctly, or maybe they could be doing additional things to further protect themselves, protect the seller, just do it the correct way. So I think it's just good information for everyone to have.
Absolutely. And I think, this is going to be a great opportunity for you to build that foundation for creative finance, and you can really become an authority in the space because I believe, you really do deserve that. And people can look and see, what you tell them about seller finance, about sub two, wraps, um, lease to own, all that stuff.
Don't say, if you say lease options 3 times in a row in the mirror, John Jackson will appear somewhere in the chat or come up on stage. So be careful.
Man, we'll have to bring them on for
Uh,
that episode when we break that down.
my man was doing a live. He was doing he does group Zoom calls in his group, and he posted a video the other day wearing a tank top and a hat doing on his group call, and I was like, this is wild behavior. But no, yeah, he's definitely the guy for lease options. I think Andrew Short mentioned it in here the other day. He's running PPC, and he said, I don't remember the exact number, but it sounded like majority of his PPC is being done through creative finance measures. So initially, probably starting out as cash style inbound marketing, and then through whatever conversation with his sales team, it cash doesn't make sense. So then they pivot over to creative. And so for everyone in here doing cash deals, again, if you give your cash offer and they say no, is it a dead lead? Did they tell you to go F off? I'm never selling this thing no matter what, whatever. Okay, that might be a dead lead, but was the door open to something else potentially? And they just said no to your cash offer. But through further communication with them, you heard some other things that maybe you can pivot that lead to something else. Um, so having other things that you understand that you can put in place in those scenarios to maximize your ad spend, maximize your budget on what you're currently doing. Don't let those leads just go and die somewhere for someone else who has the knowledge to come pick it up later and close that deal. Give yourself the best opportunity to close that deal by knowing as many possible things as you can, or know as many people as you possibly can to give that lead to in that scenario. If you don't fully feel comfortable, having those conversations, completely fine. My guys that I'm with right now that they're doing stuff together. Sometimes they get on the call. Sometimes I get on the call. They listen to the call and hear how I'm saying things and, the information that should be given and not given. So just surround yourself with people that can get it done for you in that situation.
100%. I think that's really going to be the benefit of this call is going to be to understand when it's appropriate to hand that lead off to somebody. You don't have to know exactly how to structure the terms and how to make it a deal, but if you can identify, okay, this could be a potential deal, and you can identify this is a potential lead for a creative solution, and then pass it to somebody like Matt that can actually help you structure that deal, it's going to be of service to you. So if you haven't already, definitely, I'm going to put an announcement out here at the end of this call to get signed up to make sure that you get a notification when we go live later today. It's going to be a great call, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Excited too. I just thought of something. It's like being the doctor or the nurse that identifies something is wrong, right? You go to the doctor, like, okay, it looks like this. I might not be the surgeon that actually does the surgery to correct the issue, but I'm at least able to identify the issue and pass it along to that surgeon that's actually going to correct whatever the issue is. And so sometimes your role, we talked about it yesterday, you might not be the full finisher, you might not be that person, but you can identify your role in that scenario as the identifier. I heard something here that I think makes sense for creative. I'm going to explore it a little bit. Now I'm going to pass it on. Some of the best NBA players weren't the scorers. They were the ones doing the assists. John Stockton's, everybody else, they're assisting. They're getting that guy to score. But being able to identify that situation, I think is extremely important. It's like investing. Sometimes having the money or finding the money is the easiest part. There are so many people sitting on money that would love to invest it, but they don't have the time, the knowledge, whatever. The person finding the deal is the most important person. The one finding it, structuring it, all of those things. Finding the money is easy. Structuring and finding the deal is the hardest part. So being that person is extremely important.
100%. And that's what we're going to teach you to do. So beyond that, I'm excited for today's call. I got an update, on one of the situations that I'm working today. We've been that one guy, that one seller came back around that said, "Oh well, I didn't sign. This is fraudulent. I want to move forward with this company." I said, "Okay." I didn't respond to that message. A couple of days ago, he actually sent me another message asking, saying that they didn't reach back out to him. They're having a problem, and I was like, "Look, man, they are clearly not going to close on this deal. They got it locked up way too high. The numbers are the numbers. You know what I'm saying? I told him that from the beginning. You can't make this stuff up. You've got to be, and this is why it's so important not to force deals, set false expectations with sellers, and then waste people's time. Because if you can't perform, you can't get a deal sold at a specific number. Putting it on the MLS, getting more exposure, is not going to get you a buyer if it's not a deal. You need a deal to sell a deal, and so that's what I was really trying to explain to him. So hopefully, he picks up the phone and we can continue that conversation at some point today. But it's just important to know that in real estate, no doesn't always mean never. A lot of times, no means not right now. And we talked about that earlier last year, and it's very true. And that's why it's so important to have automated follow up as well. And what I'm actually seeing from using Dan's CRM, the Apex blueprint, is that automated follow up that I don't have to send out these text messages. They're already sent out. They're already planned. When people receive these messages, sometimes you catch them at the right time when they are ready to get back on the phone. I've had PPC leads come in. I've called them immediately. Sometimes they don't pick up the phone. They don't answer when I get the lead coming in on my side. And then after, we get those follow-up texts sent out and we still stay on them and it's automated so that nothing slips through the cracks because of my own human error. That's when we start to get back on the phone with people. That's when we start to actually convert these people that were interested, get them on the phone, and then start closing these deals. So I'm excited. I've got a lot of people to follow up with. I've been looking back at some of the old PPC leads that we got, people wanted too much money at that time. And now, situations change. People find themselves in different situations as time progresses. And if we can make something happen out of leads we once thought were dead, were they really dead leads? Probably not, because these people raise their hand to say, I want to sell my house. So anytime, you get one of those types of leads, they're very important. Make sure you're following up with those people because they did reach out to you for help. It's different than cold calling and trying to kind of convince somebody to work with you versus somebody saying, okay, I have a problem. I need to sell my house. Can you help me? So I'm excited. I haven't given up on the PPC campaign. I'm just going to continue to dial in on the leads that we've got. And I really do think that there is something to be found. I talked to some land owner yesterday. I called the neighbor. The neighbor got back to me. They didn't want it. So I don't think that's going to be a deal. But it's stuff like that. You got to go through the trash to get to the treasure. So keep digging.
That's why inbound marketing is so important, man. You got, and it's good to be diversified, even as an investor. Have some whatever Section 8 properties, and you got your high income properties. You got diversified just in case something happens here. We're okay. We got it here. Same way on our side, with marketing things like that. Sometimes it's good to be diversified. Maybe you're doing some cold calling, then you also got some inbound marketing. So you actually have people that are raising their hands and saying, "Yeah, man, I'll fill out this form. I am interested." So long, at least now it's a warmer conversation. And the cold calls, as you can see from Dan, and you got to go through the mud and go through a couple wars to get to that person where you catch them at the right time. And that's part of the cold calling is building that rapport. Cold calling likely isn't going to get done on a one call close type of scenario. It's probably going to be somewhere between, depending, 4 to 10 calls later is the potential close in certain scenarios, where the inbound marketing, maybe depends, could be a one call, but probably still realistically 2 to 3.
I don't like the
More than
idea of
that,
a one call close actually because
I
the
don't
first
either.
call is really the discovery call. You need to gather some information, build rapport, build credibility, understand the seller's problem, then go do your research, right? You tell them, okay, well, I appreciate you sharing this with me. Let me go on ahead and see, if this makes sense for us. That's when you get back on the phone with that individual. If you close them on the first call, there are fundamental steps in the structure of building trust that have been skipped over, and sometimes it will give you complications. You run into these things. These people have problems. They get shaky. Oh, I was only on one phone call. I signed DocuSign. I just want to back out of this agreement. You have to really take it step by step, and so that's why I think it's very important, for you to call at least 2 to 3 times, even on the inbound stuff. I don't even think it's really worth trying to lock up on the first call.
Yeah, I used to, like, I say it on my creative calls where we'll go over all these details because, again, on the creative side, likely you're exploring something that the other person has no familiarity with. They've never, maybe they think they've heard of it, but really once you get into the weeds of it, they have no idea what you're talking about. So I always say, I'm like, when we're about to get off the phone, like, yeah, absolutely, talk it over. Please let me know if there's any questions. I'm happy to hop on a conference call, do all these things. Because I was like, if you don't have, if I say all of this and we go through this conversation one time and you have no questions for me and you're like, all right, where do I sign? Now I'm the one that's like, what's wrong here? Now I need to look at this and go, where am I missing something? For you to not have any questions or not want to hop on another call or anything along those lines, and you're just willing to go, something, now I've jumped too fast. Now I did something wrong and I need to really reanalyze it. So yeah, I don't really like one call closes either. I've had opportunities to do so. And it's better just to let it simmer, come back with any questions. Let's do a conference call with both sellers on the phone so we can answer questions live. Because a lot of times people think they don't have questions. Then you get on a conference call with both sellers or a listing agent and the seller. Then all of a sudden the seller asks 1 or 2 questions. And then the agent's on the phone and they're like, oh, actually, that reminds me, I do have a question. Now they're asked, now we're getting everything out in the open and we're answering it live. So I don't like one call closes either if in certain scenarios. That's my Benchwarmers system. I love that movie.
That's good.
Love that movie. That's the dude that's like, I am 12. I am 12. He just hands over that letter. It opens it up. It's like in crayon. I am 12.
He hands us like the $5 bill inside.
Yeah, it's got a $5
It's
bill.
got a
It's in
$5
crayon.
bill. And the guy pockets
I
it.
am
Yeah.
12. Just a jacked
It's
30-year-old dude.
uh,
That movies. I'm not gonna
it's
blow
an
up your relationship
underrated
pushy
film.
or unnatural. Yeah, pushy or unnatural. And that's the thing, like, especially on cold calls, like the whole goal is you're building rapport. Like you
Yeah,
need I love when I call somebody and they answer the phone and they're like, "Hey Matt, what's going on?" Or I'll say something. I'll say that first sentence like, "Oh, hey Matt," like they remember me from the last time. They remember me from the because we built enough rapport. We had a good enough conversation where we can talk about the thing we talked about, like that one whatever the vacation or whatever we bonded on, and that like when they're like, "Hey Matt, what's going on?" That's good. When you call again and you do a follow up and they still don't remember who you are, there's no way they're going to close with you. Or maybe they do sign and you run into issues like what John's running into, where now all of a sudden the seller gets 24 hours to think about it. And like, I'm feeling pressured. I'm feeling like the goal is to make sure everybody feels comfortable. I always try to tell sellers, like, I want to make sure that when you're at the closing table, you feel good. I don't want you ever to be at that closing table and be like, oh, I should have sold for more. I should have, like, I don't want you having those doubts and have any reason to not want to do this transaction.
definitely agree. And I think what you said there is very valuable as well. If the seller does not feel comfortable with you on the phone, if they don't have that trust that you're actually going to buy the property or whatever, they're not going to do business with you. So it's very, very important to build that trust, build that rapport, and also build the credibility when you're on the phone with these people. And sometimes that means reaching out to title companies or closing attorneys that you previously worked with and have them get on the phone and vouch for you, saying, okay, yeah, we have worked with this individual and they do actually close, they do actually perform.
Those are your best friends. That's like being out with in a friend group and someone vouches for like vouching for me, especially in a scenario where again it might be a cold lead, it might be somebody I've never talked to on the phone. Maybe we were just texting prior to this. So having credible individuals be able to vouch for you that you are the person you say you are, you have done business with this person, is going to be the best thing for your business. It's like a testimonial. It's like being a business, and I can Google your business, and all of a sudden I look and you got 35-star Google reviews. I go on your Facebook page, you got 20 reviews from other past clients. Like I'm gonna look at that. You go on Amazon. If I'm gonna order anything off Amazon, I'm looking at the reviews. What did other people say when they bought this product? So having that testimonial, that referral from somebody else being like, yep, I've done business, Matt. Matt's good. I've done 5, 10 deals with him, whatever. That's going to put that person at ease in that scenario. And again, especially in a creative deal where you are potentially tied to that seller in a way post closing. Cash, you guys are done. So as long as you get it to the closing table, there's really nothing that can be done at that point. This Colorado Springs deal I have is falling apart. The seller has changed their mind. Um, and I could hold them to the contract, and the buyer for a second was like, "Well, I'm no lawyer," but he's like, "Can they just change their mind? Can't we just hold them to this?" And I was like, "Dude, you don't want to do that. You're gonna buy this thing subject to, there's an underlying mortgage in place. If you make them, force them to close this, what do you think that's gonna look like post-closing? Do you think that that seller is gonna be incentivized at all to stay in this transaction with you? Do you trust them not to call the mortgage company or blow this deal up post? You don't wanna do that. So it's just one of those things, making sure you build that rapport and having as much trust as possible in that scenario up front.
Definitely. CeeLo
That
asks,
way.
how do you build credibility without having a closed deal yet?
Yeah, I mean, when I was an agent, that was the big thing. Like when you first start out and you're going on like listing appointments and, a question you might get is just like, how many deals have you closed? Like as an agent, what's your transactions look like? And a lot of times you can lean on if you're partnered. So like if I was with Keller Williams, I would say my specific office I was with has closed $100 million in transactions last year. We did however many hundreds of transactions that year. What I'll lean on the team I'm with in that scenario. I also think sometimes you can lean on if you know your subject matter. So again, KYS, know your shit. I might not have all the experience, the life experience of actually closing a deal, but if I actually know my shit and I can talk about the subject matter with you and I don't even raise those red flags on your side, um, there's also that too. Like, I'm willing to trust somebody. When I was selling my portfolio, I was talking about it yesterday. I had so many people calling me on it from all different, there was seasoned investors to people that I could tell within the first 60 seconds of the conversation that they were new, brand new. They were using words that we don't really use. Questions I would ask them, they were answering in a funny way. So I could sniff it out. And then there was a few people that he was doing my partner and this and that, my portfolio. And then I was like, dude, I was like, just be honest with me. I was like, do you really have partners? I knew it. And then at the end, he's like, no. He's like, my partner's my mom, and this would be our first creative deal. And I was like, I love that because I only sniffed it out a little bit, but prior to that, like you were talking so well, like he was very educated on the subject matter. He was very good. And I was like, don't be afraid also in certain scenarios just to be like, yeah, dude, it's me and my mom and we're looking for our first creative deal. I was like, I'm willing to work with that guy as long as you know your shit and I can trust you in that scenario. Now flip that. Now I know you lied to me and you're trying to be this person. And now it's like, do I want to work with you in that scenario? So you can either lean on your team if you're partnered with people in that scenario. KYS, know your shit. Make sure you know the subject matter that you're talking about because people are willing to take a chance on you if you at least know what you're talking about. If you're just like day one making cold calls and you know nothing, it's going to be very hard to build trust in that scenario.
I definitely agree, and I think one of the ways that you can kind of lean on your team is really lean on REI Rev, like really say that you're a part of a community of over 17,000 active investors because it's not cap. It's real. We really get up here every single day to the 50 plus people that show up every single day to come and be a part of these calls and talk about real estate and engage their mind in thinking about deals, underwriting deals, talking about opportunity. This is the number one most valuable real estate community in existence. It's not a cap. This is a reality, right? This is the opportunity that's in front of you. So when you get on the phone, and I actually put somebody on a phone call yesterday, won't mention any names, but the individual hasn't put in the reps. And I told him, listen, bro, you haven't put in the reps. I put you on a phone call with someone who is motivated to sell, that is ready to sign, that is ready to take action immediately, but it doesn't do you any good because you haven't gone through the objections. You haven't struggled on the phone. And that's where I started. I told him, I said, look, man, there's no skipping the process. You start on the phone, you start cold calling, you start with people telling you to fuck off, telling you that you're wasting your time, go get a job. Okay, cool. All right.
Money.
That's how you earn the money. That's how you create the skill set. That's how you gain competency, is by rolling with those punches, accepting the fact that, hey, I'm getting shit on by these people. They really don't know what I do, but I'm committed to figuring this out. That's where you actually build that credibility, is by going through all of those no's, going through all those people that tell you, no, this is fake, you're a scam, this and that, but you actually are doing it. That's right. You build the credibility by doing the work. And so I put this guy on the phone with somebody who was ready to take action immediately, but he didn't know what were the four pillars, right? He couldn't tell me with conviction, condition, motivation, timeline, price, right? If you don't have that drilled in your head for every single qualification call that you're on, you can fumble a really good opportunity. Luckily, these people are motivated, so they are not, as sharp, but if you get on a phone call with a tired landlord, somebody that is competent in the industry, somebody that has experience, they want to also speak to somebody that has at least a fundamental experience so they can have a competent conversation over the phone. And it's very important, especially if you're just getting started, to be transparent and be real. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to have everything figured out. You can literally get on the phone. And I'd love to get on the phone to maybe not today, but maybe on one of Dan's calls when he's calling, and just literally get on the phone and tell the seller, hey, look, I've got a couple questions for you. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a little bit of information. I wanted to ask you a couple questions. So, and you can literally mess it up. You know what I'm saying? Here's the reality. You don't have to be perfect on the phone to close. You just need to go through the framework. Understand, okay, well, I'm gonna give you the most important questions. Anybody can take these questions today, start getting the information that they need, and actually apply this on the phone, okay? Number one, motivation, okay? So let me ask you this. What's got you in the market to sell in the first place? Just shut up. Don't talk. Just listen. They're going to start, oh, well, I was working with these contractors. I bought this house back in 95 and it's been a big problem. I've had tenants in and out of there, but ripping up the house. Da, 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 da. They're going to tell you exactly why they want to sell the house. Okay, that's perfect. Okay. You listen to why they're distressed. Okay. From there. Okay, well, I completely understand. Very important that you say this on the phone to build rapport and understanding with somebody. I completely understand. Oof, that sounds stressful, right? Relay with them, okay? Be level with them. This is what we actually do on the phone to build that credibility, build that trust. You have to be somebody that's willing to serve this individual, understand what their challenge is, and offer a solution. So from there, we're going to say, okay, well, can you tell me a little bit about the property? Let them know. Disclose this on the call. Just to let you know, I'm an investor, and so I'm typically looking for something that I can repair and sell on the market or add to my portfolio and rent it out. Set the expectations. Set the expectations. Set the expectations, okay? Would you feel comfortable selling it to me knowing that I'm an investor? Okay, well, hey, can you tell me a little bit about what's going on with the property? What do you need? What do you feel like needs to be done? Okay, well, we got the old appliances, it needs paint, needs drywall, needs flooring, needs all these things. Okay, perfect. We got an understanding of the condition. Great line. Ready? Watch this. Listen, I'm sure we're going to be able to come to an agreement here on the price, but assuming that we can, how quickly do you think you might be looking to close? They're going to tell you their timeline. Okay, I'm looking to close in the next 30 days. I need this sold ASAP. I'd sell it to you yesterday. Those are people that need to close. Those people are ready to take action. Those people are ready to sign. Okay, perfect. All right, and let me ask you this. I mean, look, if I were to take care of all the closing costs, you wouldn't have to come out of pocket for any repairs. You wouldn't have to even come out of pocket for any agent commission if you want to sell it on the market. You won't need to deal with any of that. I'll take care of all of that, and I'll pay the cost of closing. How much do you think you'd sell it to me for an offer like that? How much do you think you'd let this one go for? They'll say, oh, well, I mean, if you take care of the closing costs, da da da. Sometimes you can ask them the price. Okay, well, how much do you think you were looking to get for this? They'll tell you a specific price. Okay, I understand. All right, well, then you pitch, okay, well, if I were to take care of the closing costs and you wouldn't have to come out of pocket for any of the repairs or anything like that, no agent commissions, what do you think you could do for me in terms of the price? Sometimes they'll negotiate against themselves. Most sellers don't get on these calls every single day, ladies and gentlemen. They're not thinking about real estate the way that we're thinking about opportunities that we're on the phone with, okay? Oh, well, if this guy's going to pay the cost of closing, maybe I can drop, $10,000, $20,000, $5,000. You don't know. It's all relative to their mind. But if you tell them you're going to provide them an added convenience so that they don't have to worry about something, would they be able to help me on the price? Oh, well, I'd like to help you on the price. I'd like to get this done. Just by that one question alone, you can negotiate against somebody, have them negotiate against themselves, and you'll see the price drop 5, 10, 15, up to $75,000. Just off one question alone I've negotiated $75,000. You'd be very surprised just by that one question alone. Is this the best you could do for me? It's not magic, guys. It's sales. It's basic questions. It's setting expectations, following an organized framework, and executing with conviction, speaking with conviction when you get on the phone. Like Matt says, KYS, you got to know your shit when you get on the phone. And how do you build that conviction? You have to study, right? You don't just happenstance walk into a phone call, make a couple calls, talk to an agent, $10,000 check at closing, right? People that are actually earning checks, they know what they're talking about. They are professionals. You could put me on the phone with anybody that really wants to sell, and I will have them sign on the dotted line, and that's a guarantee. If they're really motivated and they really want to sell, I will understand their problem, and I will be able to provide a solution. And if I can't provide the solution, I know somebody like Matt, somebody like Bob, somebody else in the community that knows more than I do, because I don't have it all figured out, and I can put them in touch with the right person. And that's what's the most important part, is to disqualify somebody as well when, hey, this probably won't make sense for me. I only can offer cash. But I've got somebody that I think might be able to help me with this deal. Let me reach out to them and see what they think about this. When would be a good time for me to follow up with you? Very important. On the first call, you don't want to go for the close, don't want to go for the kill immediately. Book the follow-up call. Find out when the next time you're going to be able to continue the conversation will be. Buy yourself a little bit of time to do some homework, run your comps, figure out what is the next step, and tell them what the next step is. But like Matt's saying in the side chat, set the expectations. It's very important. And this goes literally for everything. If somebody could have told me this is some real sauce, man. I don't even know. I don't think anybody has really shared this the way that I've been able to share this because nobody shared this with me. I had to figure this out, man, through experience, just through my own life experience. If you set expectations in your life, if you tell life exactly what you want from the beginning, you don't hide anything, you know what I'm saying? You don't pretend to be, anything, you say, look, I want this, this, and this. You're gonna get it if they want to give it to you, and that's the bottom line. If you tell them what the expectation is, if you set the expectation for how this process is gonna work, I'm telling you, this works for everything in life. Okay, set the expectation, and if you're in alignment, it will work. It's that simple. It's really that simple. It's not magic. It's simply setting the right expectations. And I learned this from a book that I read on sales. Is you cannot teach a kid how to ride a bike at a seminar. Very important. I don't follow the complete sales strategy, but I do follow. I took away two main things: discovery phase, asking and identifying the problem, and the major takeaway from that book for me was setting the right expectations with people. That's it. Works for everything. Works for business. Works for everything. Set the right expectations. That's it.
Yeah, and I think getting reps in is very important. Steve's mentioning it. You're mentioning it. Like, getting reps in is important. I think role playing is important. At a certain point, there was a lot of role playing taking place here in the Discord and the voice channels and things like that because you know the goal, like being an expert at something, is being able to explain it to somebody who has no idea what you're talking about in a way that they understand it. Explaining it in 5 minutes or less to anybody. Put anybody in front of me, I can explain it to them in the most simple form for them to understand. So if I'm getting on the call and I'm making offers, I'm having these conversations, and like you said, and like it said in general, a lot of sellers are not in real estate. They may buy one property their whole life, buy and sell a property their whole life one time, maybe two times. So this person, when you're saying I'll cover closing costs, I'll do it. Sometimes they don't even know what is the closing cost? How much is I don't understand what the things that you're saying. So making sure that you have the ability, that you have enough information on your side, enough knowledge and experience, whatever you want to call it, to be able to have these conversations with these sellers to break it down in a way that they understand what you're even referencing. And that helps build rapport too. Again, some people, if you're speaking in a way, because a lot of times when you're new, you're like talking really fast, you're kind of trying to get that deal, you're talking over them, you're doing a lot of stuff that you don't do when you're later. Like, I think a lot of powerful stuff is saying something and then shutting up, letting them simmer on it, letting them talk it out, especially landlords, investors. All they want to do sometimes is talk about their shit. They're a tired landlord. They're going to tell you all their problems. They're going to tell you all the stuff going on. Let them talk. Let them get it out. You're going to listen and hear motivation. You're going to be doing that. And that's building rapport as well. But making sure you have the ability to speak in a way that they are understanding what you're even referencing, what you're talking about. That's huge. And if you're new and you're just hopping on, and again, I absolutely believe in getting reps in. That's the only way to get to that point. But there's also a big part of role playing as well in the beginning to get those reps in, and then you eventually have to go live and do it, that way. But handling some of those objections through role playing, getting that cadence down, that tonality, matching their tonality. Um, Again, I just relay it back to when I was selling my portfolio. There's so many people that called me that within 3 seconds, it made me feel like it was a sales call. The way that hey, and it was really, I'm like, no. If I imagine you are a real interested buyer, right? I'm looking for an owner occupied house, my next house to live with my wife. I go on Zillow, I see a house for sale, I really like it, I want some more information on it. I call that agent, I call that seller. How am I going to talk in that scenario? Am I going to get on the phone and go, "Hey, Mrs. Smith, how are you? How did I catch you at a bad time? All right, great. And then go, "No, dude, I'm not going to do any of those things. Hey, Mrs. Smith, how are you? Great, great, great. Yeah, my name is Matt Riley. So I would just saw I'm going to talk not flat, but I'm matching tone. I'm not coming in super overexcited. I'm coming in like a real authentic person that's interested in this property and not coming off like I'm trying to sell you something. Imagine everybody else that calls my phone, when they call me like that, it's trying to sell me insurance. They're trying to sell, it's a sales call. And so when you're coming in like that, you're setting a bad expectation right off. It's making me go, who is this? And then if I give you enough time, okay, now I figure out who you are. Maybe I'll stay on the phone. But I'm immediately getting in my defense mode. Like, who the fuck is on my phone right now calling me? So at first, it's like first impressions in person too, right? You got 5 seconds or less to make a good first impression in person. On the phone, might even be less than that. Especially if for a person where that phone rang 10 times and they're looking at it, they're like, dude, I don't know this. Do I want to answer this thing? And then they like swipe over and like, hello. And I was like, "Hey," and you're like, "What the? Don't be." You know what I mean? It's just like there's small subtle things that you can do that the experience and the knowledge and the actual information that you have is the icing, but like there's such small things that you can do outside of that as well to give yourself the best chance to be on the phone for the amount of time that you need to be on the phone. And I just don't
100%.
like this. It's like a sales voice. It's like the corporate voice. It's something that it's like that's not who you are. That's only you on the phones when you're trying to do this. Just be you. Who would you be if you were really interested in this property? If you were the real interested buyer, whoever that person is, be that person.
100%. And I think to touch on what you talked about in terms of matching tonality and mirroring, right, was another key principle in the book. And it's very important when somebody gets on the phone with you and they're not having a good day. You know, a lot of these distress sellers are really in a sticky situation. They are not having a good time. They just went through something, whatever it was, divorce, all sorts of stuff. And they answer the phone, hello. And like Matt
Oh,
saying,
dude.
"Hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Hey, listen,
Yeah.
man, you're gonna get laughed at and hung up on. These people don't have time for it. You have to really level with people, man. Be realistic." And it goes back to saying, you don't have to be perfect on the phone. You got to be real, and you got to follow a framework.
Yeah, man. Dan, one of Dan's first days calling, he called a guy and he was going through like, dude, this guy, like, I wanted this seller to have a win because you could hear it in the way he answered. And then he's like, "Hey, did I catch you at a bad time?" Whatever. And the guy was like, just got out of surgery. And then he's going through a divorce. And the wife is really trying to hit him in this divorce. And she wants all the money from the sale. Like, it was just never ending with this guy. And if you're talking to that guy, you're like, "Oh, man, that sucks. So, what were you thinking about that property over there? Were you thinking like that guy is going to send a bomb to your house? Like he has nothing left to give. He is gonna just there's nothing. So it's like again, just be relatable. You don't have to be an expert to be relatable. You don't have to be an expert to understand how to talk to people. You don't have to be an expert to understand someone else's position when they're talking to you, what they're going through, and how you should approach that conversation and situation with just empathy. Or you don't have to be their psychologist or therapist, or you don't have to be on the phone for an hour, but just understanding, listening. So when they're telling you certain things, recognize it. They're saying it, recognize it. Oh man, I'm so sorry to hear that. I have my parents are divorced or what, share something in that moment where it just again lowers that defense. And it's just like in that scenario that guy could easily be like, all this shit I got going on in my life and this guy's on my phone trying to sell me something. Like it's just gonna be an explosion of events at that point. So I think again there's just small little things that everybody here can do, whether you know the business or you don't, that will give you that further chance to stay on that phone the length of time that you need to in order to uncover the information you need in order to give yourself the best chance of getting a deal done.
100%.
Yeah, and don't lose control because there's a lot of people here too. They're like, I had a great call. I was on the phone for 60 minutes. And it's like, that doesn't necessarily mean it was a great call. You could have just been too nice at that. Now you're like the therapist and you just allowed that entire conversation to snowball into them telling you all their problems. And then at the very end, you were like, okay, I've been on the phone for 55 minutes. Now's the time for me to get into this. And they're like, all right, man, well, so and so just walked in. So I got to go. So, appreciate the call. Follow up me later. Click. And you're like, well, okay. That was 60 minutes of nothing. I got nothing accomplished in that scenario. That guy just rattled off all of his problems and then got off the phone with me. So there's a part too of like being the professional being, having empathy, having these things, and it's a lot of different things depending on the call. Made me tell the wholesalers who called me on my personal property, I called them out for being new if they suck. Yeah, and that's the thing too. There's just, I don't know. It's just there's a that could be a whole thing in and of itself, is like the actual call itself, and how you're um because yeah, again, it's just like there's a naturality to it of letting a conversation flow. Again, if I'm a real interested buyer in a property, how would I approach this call? I'm going to call and have a natural conversation. Yeah, yeah, I actually live over here in town, and my wife this and that, and so I saw it and I'm interested, and so asking not like immediately jumping into it, not like letting the casual flow of the conversation. I mean, imagine in real life you go up to somebody or and then you immediately jump in, like they're gonna be like, "Oh, dude, good to see you too." Okay, like you're just jumping right into your thing. Like, let it simmer for a second. Um, so there's just a lot of that, and yeah, I mean, like Paul said, again, going back to when I was selling my portfolio, it was so easy. Like literally within the first 10 seconds, it was extremely easy to know who the person was, their experience level, what their intention was on the call. Most of them, I knew that they didn't have the capacity to buy it, or which again, I wholesale, so I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But there's just, you can set a red flag off within the first 10 seconds or less. And sometimes, depending on who that person is on the other call, it's very hard to recover after that. So just setting the right expectations, setting everything up, setting the stage up to build rapport and be natural, man. People like natural. Think about your friend. Think about all the people you're friends with, not family, because family suck with you regardless. Your friends. Why do they like you? Why do you like them? When you hang out with them, is it awkward? Is it weird? Or do you guys flow and have natural conversation and it's easy to be, around? Think about it like that. Like just be a normal person, get on the phone. You don't have to be sleepy on the phone. Like, there's that middle ground, but it's just, again, just be a normal person. That's all. Don't be weird. Just don't be weird. Be normal. I get it too, like young guys in the group, young people in this group too. Like you might be calling sellers that are 40, 50, 60 years old, 70 years old. So it's like certain people in this group that are, I mean, 16 is young, so I don't want to get into it, but like 18 and above, you may never have had a conversation like that with a person of that age that has a portfolio of properties or what. So I get it. There's that, oh my God, like type of moment, but just continue getting the reps in.
100%. And also to touch on that is, I think a lot of people, and myself included, when I first got started, I had a problem with my identity in my mind, the way that I viewed myself, right? And you don't build the identity of a closer until you really start closing deals. That's when I now lean on my skill, on my capacity, right? I don't think, for X reason. My reason for why I have conviction on why I can close deals is because I close deals. That's why. And the way that you build that is by putting in the reps and having the conversations and getting, people to tell you to F off, and you just continue to show up. That's where that resilience is built. And so, for anybody out there, because I'm not saying this because, I want to punish anybody, but this is where I started. I didn't have any money to spend on marketing. I didn't have really a car with good brakes, but I still got in the car and I still got.
Have a car with good brakes.
I did have a car with good brakes. It wasn't my car, but I still I still got in the car and I drove it around, and I had to get the properties on the list, and I had to call the list. I used People Looker. These are the same resources that we give out to everybody for free in the community. People Looker, Google Voice. Call the list one by one, one by one. Days would go by. I would call and call and call, and nobody would pick up the phone sometimes, but I still knew that I was working towards something. I knew that if I was continuing to show up, that all of this would pay off one way or another. And it's very difficult sometimes to be going through the process and still think, with no sort of results, that this is actually real. It's real. And once you really figure this out, once you really build that skill, once you build that confidence in your ability to close on the phone, it's going to be the only problem you're going to have is needing to talk to more motivated sellers. That's going to be the only problem, because if you can get on the phone and talk to somebody that wants to sell, they're going to sell with you. your only problem is talking to more motivated people. That's it. And that's where marketing comes into play, and spending more money on getting on the phone with more of those motivated sellers. And so,
Yep.
with that being said, I just want to really encourage people, that have that imposter syndrome, that haven't quite built that identity for themselves, to start to just document what you are doing. It's much easier to build the mental framework and the identity, right? The way that you view yourself, if you can see what you are doing. So if you start, okay, I'm going to just go live, and I'm going to just make some calls, and I'm just going to put it on the internet, or I'm going to put it on my phone, and I'm going to just have this documentation that this is a fact that I actually do call and close people. Somebody's calling me right now. Should we take this call live?
Uh-oh. Do you know who it is?
I don't know who it is.
Danger Zone.
Hello? Hi. No, I'm sorry. No, I don't know. One of my numbers have people have been calling it back. I don't know. It must be tied maybe with some other person has the same number sending out calls or cold calling or texting or something. But like I was saying, you got to build that personal identity. You got to shift the identity that you have of yourself in your mind. You can become anything you want in the world. I know it's a cliche thing. It's the truth, bro. You can really become whatever you want in the world so long as you can see it and hear and believe it to be real. And you create the reality when you start documenting what you're doing. So like so important for you to write about it, and then also record it. Record what you're doing, record the proof so it's irrefutable. Somebody can say to me, "Oh, John, you're not a closer. You're a fraud. You're a guru. You don't really close deals. You're just trying to sell a course." Oh, really? I don't have a course and I close deals. It's a fact, right? Create more content, create more documentation that what you are doing is a fact so that you can rely upon that, not only with the other sellers by referring them to partners that have worked with you on closing these deals, but to yourself. So at the end of the day, you can say, okay, I did the work, I put in the reps, and I am becoming a closer.
Yeah, I now, like, I send, like, when listing agents or whatever, we're like, could you they'll ask, and I'll drop my quote unquote like virtual business card, which has my email address, it has my Facebook, it has everything. Like, I don't like, go check out my Facebook. You'll see me on there. You'll see me making videos. You'll see me all the past deals that I've done. You'll see all, like, I have no shame in, like, I want you to go look at that because I want you to see, like, I'm really doing what I'm offering you to, here right now, and I'm not trying to hide anything. I want you to go check it out. So giving myself the best chance of, again, going back to like the title company referrals, all people you've done business with, also go check me out as well to see that I am the person that they say I am and whatever else. So I think all of that is part of like your brand, your marketing, everything else.
100%. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Matt Riley, I appreciate you staying on for as long as you have. And I appreciate everybody here for joining us. Today is Friday, the last day of the week. I hope that everybody really takes this motivation and instruction to go and take it seriously and go out and get it. Get on the phone with sellers, go and try to help people, and we will catch you back here later today for Matt's 3 p.m. Eastern call, creative finance call. He's going to be teaching you the foundations of creative finance. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the #1 most valuable real estate community in existence. If you haven't already, please consider inviting somebody you think would benefit from being in proximity with us. Send them that link, discord.gg/REI Rev. Send them to reirev.com, and we will see you back here later today. If you haven't already, make sure to click like. Tell them, Matt. You tell them. Send us off, man.
Paul loves that line. If you haven't already, like, it's like we got a YouTube channel over here. We're Jake Paul.
We're getting started.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. This is the most valuable real estate community in existence.
There you go. We're ready to get to it.
Over here.
All right, y'all. Take care.